Welcome, Sasha. Again, an honor to have you with us, both for this interview and in a few months' time for AlchemyConf in person. For those that don't know you, and I think at this point everyone will in this community, hopefully. But I think you're a leading voice in the Elixir community, the author of Elixir in Action, and just overall seasoned software engineer, I would say. So yeah, thrilled to have you here. Can you just to start us off, share a little bit more, if you want, about yourself, your background, and more importantly, even I think, how did you get into Elixir?
Okay, yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me here and in Braga. I'm very excited about being there, visiting there. I've never been to Braga, so really looking forward to explore it a little bit. And the venue looks absolutely wonderful. So I'm just looking forward to be on that stage. So anyway, yeah, my name is Sasha, and I presume many of people in the Elixir community know me for the book Elixir in Action, and I also done multiple talks. Perhaps the most popular one would be the talk called "The Soul of Erlang and Elixir," which gets mentioned frequently. And but yeah, I have been programming for quite a while. Actually, it's been more than more than 30 years since I wrote my first Hello World. And I've been doing for a long time basically just imperative programming, right? So I started off with Basic, then went to Pascal, C, and then my professional career kicked off with C++, writing Windows desktop applications, then moving to C Sharp, and then I switched to Ruby and to the backend side of things, where I also inevitably ended up, of course, using JavaScript for the front end. So I was like for a while actually a full stack developer. And then around or in 2010, I ended up using Erlang. I think that was a life-changing moment for me. I really didn't see it coming, So basically, we needed to implement a push server, right? So we have like a bunch of connected users, and they receive updates in at near real time about sport events or matches which are currently taking place, and so you receive a bunch of these different uh, updates, like has been a real result in the score or something is happening within the match and whatnot. And back then, that was kind of esoteric, so the push technologies were not as available as they are today. And so dealing with this, what's been traditionally known as C10K problem, meaning 10,000 connections, and then you can, of course, now it seems like quite small, but back then it was like quite challenging to do it with most of the mainstream technologies. And Erlang was one of the technology that was basically supporting that kind of concurrency, because you really need to have some kind of concurrency for that, right? Back at the time, you didn't really have stuff like Go, Node.js, or I think there was Event Machine maybe available. It's like a very initial version. So Ruby's Event Machine, right? So this stuff was pretty esoteric back then, and so you basically didn't have many options then. So I looked into Erlang and did a trial, like a prototype, and it was really performing wonderfully. And so I started using it. And as I was maintaining this subsystem or component that I have built, I learned to appreciate Erlang and OTP more and more. I learned to appreciate it not as just some sort of a single or one trick pony, but actually I learned to understand how concurrency makes building my systems much simpler compared to other technologies. Specifically, I was working at the time both on that Erlang thing and the main system, which was written in Ruby, and I was able to see how much we had to improvise around lack really of any concurrency or usable concurrency model in Ruby. And so we ended up with a lot of complications of this, what I like to call a cocktail of technologies kind of working together to make the whole system work. Whereas in Erlang, I was just able to do practically everything directly in Erlang, right? Although had like the same technical needs, and I actually had to support, or that component had to support more more users than the Ruby or higher load than the Ruby based system, right? And so this is basically the origin of the famous table, which occasionally makes the rounds in the community, where I compare two systems, and you have one with a bunch of technologies and another one just with Erlang. So it's a true story. I'm not generalizing that it works every time, and of course that we uh, tend to use other technologies with Beam as well, and that's perfectly fine. But I certainly found out that there's less need for me to do that, and so my life is simpler. I can stay within the single language as much as possible, and that makes my life easier and helps me solve my problems more efficiently, right? And this is the point of a tool to help you work with. And this is kind of a process of say about 2 years or so, where I basically convinced myself from practice that Erlang is the tool for the stuff that I'm doing or that I want to do, which is backend side development. That it's the best tool that I have seen. And in the process, I was, of course, I wasn't happy with everything. So specifically, then the tooling in Erlang was kind of, clumsy, like build tools and whatnot. And yeah, so like the developer experience was a little bit subpar compared to like what you would call modern languages at the time. And I was looking at some alternatives such as Scala. I was looking at Go. I think around that time Go was made public. I was very optimistic about those things, but in the end, when I dove a little bit deeper, I didn't found they deliver the same kind of things that I had in Erlang, and it's kind of a blessing that I already had some experience with Erlang, so I kind of knew what to look for. Right, if I didn't know, that I would probably just go for the most popular option out there, right? And so basically, the result of that research or exploration was that. The best Erlang is Erlang, right? Much to my demise, it wasn't something I was expecting to come up with. And then around that time, I discovered Elixir. I'm not going to go into the story. It's to make this kind of as short as possible. But the point is, when I saw Elixir, and it was in version I think 0.7 or something, so pretty early. But it was already had like this basic core that it is today, and I was just blown away. It had like everything that I was missing from Erlang and more. It was really wonderful, well documented even at that early stage. It had a specific page in documentation for Erlang developers as well, and I just pretty quickly started introducing it to production, and I just gradually moved over the period of years. So I moved the company to another company as well, but I was still working with Erlang for a few years. But gradually, I moved completely to Elixir. I'm not meaning to take away anything from Erlang. I still think that, and I often say it is the best benefits that we have in this ecosystem coming from Erlang or the runtime, right? Together with OTP and a lot of goodies in the Erlang standard library. And then Elixir kind of, to me at least, adds this improved experience on top of that, so I can work even more efficiently with the technology. And so this is kind of the story of how I came to this world. And honestly, so it's been, I think, about 8 or 9 years since I've been like exclusively doing Erlang / Elixir, mostly Elixir in the past years, and I just don't feel like really doing anything else.
Nice. Um, yeah. So obviously, you have published a book that's very prominent in the community. You write a lot of blog posts. You again, you speak at a lot of conferences, and you'll be with us at Alchemy Conf, as we've said before. I was just curious about like what drives you to so openly share what you're finding as you're building things.
Yeah, I guess it's a just desire to share the knowledge. I wouldn't necessarily just call it selfless. It's just I like the challenge of taking on a complex topic and turning it into a story that makes sense. I'm kind of connecting here somewhat mysteriously with the talk that I'm gonna deliver in Braga as well, which is called "Tell Me a Story." But yeah, so it's been like when I just started talking first, I was terrible at it. And this was way before my professional career. So I was kind of made to do some talks. So already when I was at high school and then back in college as well. And it was like pretty bad. But I kind of learned through that experience, and then I also informally gave some instructions to my friends, and I kind of learned how to organize the knowledge in a way that it can be transferred to other people. And yeah, so like teaching has always been kind of, I'm not going to say a passion, but something that I enjoy occasionally doing. I've been doing early in my career as well, like long courses of teaching C++ to non-programmers. That was pretty fun and wild, as you may imagine. And so, yeah, anyway, these years that I've been doing, it's been more than 10 years that I've been doing public talks at various conferences. I just find it kind of, I'm doing something at work and I look like, I think of it like, yeah, this could be an interesting story. And I enjoy the challenge of kind of shaping this into a story that kind of has the beginning, the middle section, and the end, and people come away from it and feel that they have learned something.
Interesting. Now, changing gears a little bit. So you went through your story with Erlang, a little bit with the Elixir. In terms of if you had to say to someone that has a company or is starting a company, why would they should choose Elixir? What would you say in terms of like the main benefits of choosing Elixir over anything else?
Right. Well, so when we're talking about the greenfield project, right, and you're starting a company, then you really have a great freedom of choices. And if you are building anything on the backend side, and I think usually these days this is like almost always the case, then you should seriously consider a Beam language, right? I think Elixir is probably the safest option, but the others, especially of course Erlang and Gleam, are definitely very very good options as well, right? And the main point that I always have about Beam is that it's a system, it's a runtime designed to support high availability, right, and fault tolerance. And scalability. And so you may think like, okay, I don't need any of those things. I'm just getting started and I'm not building the WhatsApp and whatnot. But whenever you're building something which exists on the network, right, on the internet, and it's providing service 24/7, no matter your user base, your use case, your expected load, you want to operate constantly, right? Because the way I like to joke is the opposite of high availability is frequently failing. And you don't want to have a system which is frequently failing, right? I had a bunch of talks actually, well, not a bunch, but I had a couple of talks which were demonstrating practical concurrency with Elixir on small scale, simple examples where you had like few dozens or few hundred of concurrent things, right? So we're not talking about anywhere near the WhatsApp scale or something like that. And you still get a incredible help on or incredible utility from using concurrency or the Beam style model, right? So this is the main thing, if you are building something that's going to be out there providing service, you're going to have to deal with availability. Obviously, of course, it is easier if your user base is smaller, but you still can end up in a bunch of problems even on a small scale, which Beam can help you solve more efficiently. And in many cases, in my experience, it actually just solves them almost magically without you actually thinking about it, as long as you're doing like idiomatic stuff. Like, and a good example is when you're dealing with a Phoenix web framework, you get this inherent concurrency out of the box, right? So you're just writing, it's the same DX, it's the same experience as you would be using, or like on par or similar. If you would be using, I don't know, Django or Rails, so it's nothing more difficult than that. But out of the box, out of the gateway, you get like this massive concurrence. Each request is handled in its own concurrent, separate process, right? So just by the virtue of this, you have scalability, you have also fault tolerance as well, right? And so that's like a very simple example. Same thing with Ecto and connection pools that is used behind the scene. Then, of course, let's not even mention, or we should actually mention, right, live view and the goodies that you get with it, and live streaming or channels, right? So live update experience and whatnot. So there are like quite a lot of useful stuff out of the box that you get, right? And so I would say that with Elixir and this core ecosystem that you have with Phoenix and Ecto and Oban library, which is also very important, you get this out of the box tools that allow you to build quickly. You can start very quickly. You can iterate very quickly. You can progress very fast. And at the same time, you are on excellent foundations, which will allow you to scale in any direction that you need, wherever your future takes you, right? So down that path, you will not have to think about complex rewrites, which is frequently the case with many other chosen technologies, and you will not have to think about complicated improvisations. So bringing in other tools and whatnot, this is much less needed, as I mentioned, in the Beam ecosystem. And so you are on the foundations that allow you to go very, very far. Right? So there is no trade-off really here. I mean, there is a trade-off. There's always a trade-off, but certainly there is no trade-off between having a simple and quick start and being able to take this thing on a very long run.
Having said that, I mean, you mentioned this as if you need something to be available, it makes sense to use Elixir. But even saying that, do you think there's specific types of applications or industries where it makes special sense, or you'd be even better at?
Which are like even more sweet spot. Well, I mean, honestly, I think it's anything backend side is really the case. Obviously, of course, the more dynamic the nature of your backend. So, like if you're serving some statistical pages, right, then you don't even need to use a programming language, right? But if you have some kind of a logic, if you have statefulness, so it's typically when you have like chats and any forms of chats, live updates, right? So I was using this for us updating information about sport matches. So you have like on one hand different sport matches taking places, and there's like state, and then you have players connecting to or listening to changes to multiple matches, and you have like this player state on the server. So that kind of thing. Uh, Any sort of like real time trading, for example, e-commerce, wherever you have kind of stateful flows, wherever you're doing some kind of or large number of jobs which you want to orchestrate. These are like a really good examples, right? One that I had in my talks that I was mentioning that's based on real life experience was building a continuous integration with Elixir. That was really a fun thing. Kind of sorry, I never got to open sourcing it. So yeah, we for one company that I was working for, we built a lightweight CI in Elixir, and it was by far the my favorite CI that I was ever working with. It was like really incredible, and it was implemented in plain Elixir, so it was much I think more straightforward to deal with, rather than wrestling with all these YAMLs and whatnot. So that's also a good example wherever you feel like there's a bunch of what I like to call activities are happening. Things are happening. A bunch of different things are happening in the system. Some of which are mutually dependent or related, and some of which are of course independent. This is really a great spot for dealing with or using Beam languages.
So yeah, we've said multiple times already that you're speaking at AlchemyConf this year. You've hinted at the title of the talk, and without giving too much away, what can attendees look forward to in your talk? Can you share
Okay,
anything?
right. Yes, I'll try to share. So the talk is called "Tell Me a Story," and I'm trying something new. So I'm trying to keep it to keep the subject or the abstract of the talk, mysterious, or I'm not gonna disclose it. So because people are gonna be there anyway, and it's a one-track event as far as I understand. So you will either visit my talk or be in the hallway, right? But anyway, what you can expect is, I'm gonna tell you a tale. It's gonna be a tale about passing on the knowledge, about communication, about collaboration, compassion, sharing, and caring, and empathy. Uh, but it's going to be very technical as well. You can expect a lot of live coding. I'm not even sure if I'm going to have any slides at all. So we're gonna see. And I have also prepared something special, something which is hopefully going to be fun, at least for me, to honor the beautiful stage where I'm going to be. So we're going to see what that's going to be. I'm very very excited about this talk. It's a topic which is very close to my heart. It's something that I do uh, uh, quite often or practice quite often in the past, well, many years actually now, as a part of my job of working with teams and mentoring teams, and it's something that I'm trying to instill into people, and it's also something which I feel that as industry we are massively not doing. So I think it's going to be very very relevant, But yeah, so hopefully that kind of gets you at least a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
bit excited.
No,
Yeah.
I was super excited about it, and to see what you're talking about, because yeah, it's very mysterious at this stage, but I'm sure it'll be very interesting. The So yeah, we've been mentioning Alchemy Conf, and this is what mostly what we're talking about. But you also you said you just said right now you're mentoring teams, so you're very in tune with what's happening. What would you like to see discussed at Alchemy Conf in terms of topics or anything in general? You think the community at large, the Elixir community, should be talking about?
Yeah, well, so first of all, of course, I have taken a look at the lineup, and it's a wonderful lineup. I've seen some or many familiar faces there, so that's cool. And then I also seen some faces which I haven't heard talking before, which I also really enjoy. So we should definitely be having new faces. There are certain talks that I'm excited about, especially the one from Remote about their large code base. I'm really curious what they're going to tell us about it. I'm dealing, for my clients with somewhat smaller, but still, I would say a large code base of, I think, around 400,000 lines of code. I don't know, maybe even more. I haven't checked the count in a while. And that presents, some challenges, or actually quite a lot of challenges. And I think the one thing from my perspective, which I'm kind of struggling with is using the language server on such a large project, and that that experience is really not working well for me. I'm curious to hear how remote people are dealing with it. As far as I know, Jose has announced, I think a while ago, that there is some consolidated collaboration by multiple language server authors to work on like the official one or the blessed one, and I'm really excited to see how that will unfold. So hopefully, maybe we will get some.
Mhm.
I'll be able to hear something about it on the conference, maybe by some people. I don't know who's going to attend, but this is something that I would really like to see. I think it's one of the biggest pain points, I would say, these days in the Elixir ecosystem, right? So the language servers are working well for smaller projects, but when you go to this much larger sizes, then at least in my experience, it's lacking really. Yeah.
Yeah, same. Same experience on my side. Curious. So you didn't mention their types, which is like something that a lot of people are talking about in Elixir now. We just got them in the latest release in their first form. Where do you see, not necessarily just with types, but where do you see Elixir heading in the next 5-10 years, or what are your hopes for the language and the community?
Well, yeah, we are, I think, in a really stable place, in a really good place. Now, the types are going to be a relatively big change, but they are still kind of an opt-in change. So we're kind of incrementally going to be hopefully adding more types to our code base. That's absolutely something that I'm looking forward to. I've been talking for a long time that this is one of the biggest deficiencies of Elixir, So I'm looking forward to that. I think, from what I understand, maybe like by the end of the year we'll actually get like some form of annotations that we can write, and then that can be checked, but that's still yet to be seen. And So what I would like to see, I suppose, is on one hand really a better language server. I think it's, as I said, the biggest pain point. Another thing would be maybe somewhat better or growth, I would say, of the ecosystem of various client libraries, which people sometimes complain about, like compared to other ecosystems, the state of them, or the maturity of them, or even kind of maintenance of those various libraries. So it's kind of my understanding is it's not really as easy as with other languages to kind of interact with various third-party APIs. Although personally, I tend to like just using directly. Just issuing HTTP requests and just using the wonderful rec library, which is really a great HTTP client. But I can understand for many people that this is not the case, especially for the beginners. And so hopefully, in that department, we are going to see some improvements, right? But otherwise, I'm like quite happy with the ecosystem. I would like to see, of course, the user base, the community grow, not wildly, but organically, and hopefully this is going to happen. And what I really think we need to is maybe listen more to juniors or people entering this ecosystem and telling us, what are their problems, what are they experiencing, and what would they find lacking.
On that topic, do you think so? Clearly, Elixir is still a niche, like a niche language, right? In the whole realm of languages, do you think that there's a lot of space still to grow in terms of companies adoption? And obviously, I think, but you can disagree that the company adoption will lead to more people adopting it because more people there will be more jobs and people will see it in job applications and then proceed to learn the language. How do you think this can happen, or is this a problem right now in the community?
Well, it is always a chicken and egg problem, and I don't know. I'm really just a humble developer spreading the knowledge, and nothing more. And I'm not really sure strategically how to do. I always thought like people would just when you talk talk enough about the benefits and you get the visibility of your talks or this or your writings and whatnot, that people are gonna start using it. But what I have found in the experience is that like people say watch my talks and then that after the talk, we speak and they're all excited and whatnot, and then they go back to their daily job using whatever else, and it kind of falls flat, right? In many cases, and it's kind of really difficult to drive the wider community. I'm not really sure I have the answer to that, other than hoping that as long as we're keeping our steady progress, that the ball will get rolling more quickly at some point. But basically, it's what you said. You need companies to adopt the language more and more, and in this way, basically, practically drive the adoption through through industry. Hopefully, this is going to happen, right? But it's we have to see.
If before a little bit before you mentioned junior developers, if you were a junior developer right now, or if you had to give like one piece of advice to someone just starting with Elixir or programming in general, but maybe with Elixir is more interesting here, what would you say to them?
Well, I suppose probably the best advice I could say is try to find a good mentor, if you can help it, right? When I kind of think back of my professional career, and I've been just actually doing this recently because so I have like this hobby of that I'm doing. I kind of playing a guitar, and I started playing guitar before I started programming, but it never took off. And I think the main one of the big reasons why I didn't take off is that I didn't really have good mentors. So at different points, right? And so it kind of always remained a hobby of mine. And on the other hand, for programming, when I started working professionally, really for like the first 10 years or so, I've had great mentors. Really different people were having mentoring me at different points in time. And I'm just so lucky because this kind of drove me to the position where I am, and it made me a much better programmer, software developer, and I would say even a human being as a result of that. And I should say that like I started working professional when I already had like almost 10 years of hobby background, programming background, right? So I wasn't even a total beginner, but really mentoring, proper mentoring really lifted me quite up, right? And so if I would say number one advice, try to look for a good mentor. If you're not happy with your mentor, then maybe you may want to think about changing a position, whether within the company or outside of it, right? The same advice then holds for the seniors. Try to be as best mentors as you can for your juniors, because you can really tremendously affect their professional path.
Awesome. That's a really, really good advice, I think. So we're coming to a close of our interview here today. Is there anything we didn't touch that you'd like to share with our audience?
Well, I didn't really think about what's going to what's going to be the outcome of this talk, but no, I think we touched on pretty pretty much all the important things, in this short period of time. So again, I hope I'm going to see you in Braga. I really am so happy that we have expanded the selection of Beam related conferences, and so I'm really looking forward to see people there, to be there, and yeah, come to the conference. Definitely don't be shy if you see me. If you didn't meet me, just come and say hi. I like meeting new people, establishing contacts. So hope I'm gonna see you there.
Yes. So I'll definitely be there. I think so. As you said, we're trying to create an event for the community that's really community based. I think it'll be run a little bit different from what probably people are used to in other events. More time to talk to each other, more time to talk to speakers. So yeah, if you haven't yet, grab your
Yeah.
tickets.
I,
Yeah,
I
Sasha,
tell
one more thing.
one thing comes to mind actually within touch, if I may. I'm also going to be doing a workshop right the day before the conference. So both you and I almost forgot about it. So yeah,
Yes.
if you can spare the time and money, try to visit the workshop as well. So it's about practical testing. It's called practical testing with Phoenix and Elixir. It's rooted on something which I've been doing with teams in my like role of a mentor slash consultant, and it basically is rooted in practice, right? So it's about getting most of your tests, most value of your tests, of writing tests which are clear, which gives you most confidence with the minimal amount of the testing code required, right? And so I think this is also something that I think many teams and people are kind of missing on writing kind of more complicated tests would give you less confidence. And so yeah, this is a very practical workshop. You're going to do a lot of coding, and we're going to do a lot of discussions as well. I've already done 2 iterations of it, so I think it's kind of now getting to the stable place. I've gotten good feedback from the past 2 iterations, so yeah, it's going to be fun. Hopefully I'm going to see you on that one as well.
Yeah. I was an attendee of one of your workshops before, and so for personal experience, I can say they're very good. So recommend it. Everything we've been talking about, workshops and tickets for the conference, can be found at alchemyconf.com. There should be a link somewhere here. So yeah, again, Sasha, thank you very much for taking the time and for accepting the challenge of speaking at AlchemyConf. And see you in a couple of months.
Yeah, see you soon. Bye bye.
Bye.